Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. If it's your first time here, my name is Brittany and thank you so much for tuning in. It has been about 2 months since I posted. I had my tummy tuck on June 6th and I really had a hard time sitting down to film this video. I wanted to wait until I got to a point where I could really give you my honest review and thoughts on the entire process and journey. And it changed a lot. It was an emotional roller coaster and lots of stuff happened and I didn't feel comfortable enough to sit down and kind of make a bunch of chopped up videos with me just kind of like, whoo, all over the place emotionally. So I really wanted to wait until I could give you guys my honest, real, final thoughts, and it has taken me basically up until this point to give you that because it really did kind of change day to day and it was a lot. It really was a lot. So if you're interested and you want to hear all about my journey and you want to see before and afters and the good, the bad, the ugly in between, just keep watching. I will tell you that if you are squeamish or you aren't comfortable with like blood or any kind of surgical stuff like that, feel free to X out of this video. This is not the one for you. Or you could just fast forward all the way to the very end and you can hear my final thoughts, whatever you're interested in doing. If you see me look down a lot, it's because I wrote down basically all of my feelings kind of as they were happening and just things that I wanted to bullet point and when I did finally decide to make the video. So I have a lot to talk about. I'll try to keep it, not crazy long. But yeah, if you're interested in hearing about my journey, just keep watching. So I had my surgery June 6th and the surgery itself was easy peasy. I went into the pre-op. They make you take a pregnancy test, make sure you're not pregnant. All that. They give you the medicine and as soon as I laid down in like the operating room, he was like, he puts the IV in and it's like, it was like almost instantaneous. I had IV sedation, I didn't have general anesthesia, so he puts the IV in and he goes, "How do you feel?" And I go, "Weird," and that was the last thing I remember and I was out. I barely remember recovery, but supposedly I was super funny. Shocking. I got home and the first night was pretty easy. I still was like, had a lot of anesthesia and stuff, so I was just, loopy and out of it. I remember I ate a ton of food because I was starving. My surgery was like delayed from the first surgery of the day, so I was starving by the time that, everything wore off and I was home. My girlfriend rented me it's called a lift chair, and it's like basically a recliner that like old people use, and it stands you like all the way up. That thing was a godsend. Like, I had never heard of that, but if you're gonna have any kind of surgery, get yourself a lift chair, rent one for a month, because that thing was amazing. I slept in it for 2 weeks, and I don't know that I could have really gone through this whole thing without it, because it was a lifesaver. I tried to sleep in my bed the first night, and it was horrific, so highly recommend that. Also, I used, I had like a U-shaped maternity pillow, and I had it like tucked in, so I used that basically in the recliner, and I just chilled there for what felt like an eternity. So the first week went by really easily. I had help, and everybody's excited to see you and kind of help out and bring you food and do everything for the first week, so it was pretty easy, I'll tell you that. And you're on freaking pain medicine, so you're just like, oh, everything's good. It wasn't until the second week that really took a turn. So I got my drains. I had one drain and I had it just on this side, and I had it for 6 days, and I didn't find the drain to be that bad, to be honest. Like, that was the part that I was the most anxiety ridden about, and it really was not even like that big of a deal. It was just like clipped on to my binder, which I had on like 24 hours a day, and unless I was showering, which I didn't. I think the 3 days, I really don't remember when I showered. Basically when the doctor said that I could. So I had the drain. I had my surgery on a Wednesday. I had it taken out on Tuesday. So 6 days. Everything seemed to be fine. There wasn't a lot of fluid in there, whatever. Well, the second week was the hardest week of my whole life because I was supposed to have a family member come into town to help me with that second week because my husband works full time and I have 2 small children, and she was unable to come. So it was just kind of like, having a sitter come here and there and having family when they could and just piecemealing it, and it was extremely hard. So I'm not able to lift my 1-year-old, and basically at that point also I had stopped taking the pain medicine. So I don't know if it was the pain medicine or just the combination of everything, but I felt really depressed. like the mom guilt was real. You know, the first week was so easy because the kids were entertained, we had help, everything was fine. The second week, I just felt like the crappiest mom ever because my young kids were just over it. They were over me not being able to move. And I was over it. You know, I had major cabin fever and I wasn't able to do the things that I felt like I needed to be doing. So it was really hard for me. I mean, emotionally, I was just like, why did I do this to myself? You know, it felt shitty, you know, it really did. And also at that point, I had looked in the mirror and when I first initially looked at my stomach, I was so excited. I was like, oh my God, this looks amazing. Like I'm having the best result and everything was good. Well, into the second week, I was just like swelling and swelling and swelling and swelling. So when you're in that kind of pain and you're basically like, you know, bound to a chair in your house and you're not seeing the results that you want to see, it's very disheartening. You're kind of like, why did I spend all this money? Why am I in this pain? Why did I do this to myself? Like, I just felt like it just sucks. And in that, you know, it's crazy because it's like, as an adult, weeks go by just like boom, 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 boom. But in the middle of it, it just felt like this was never going to end. So the second week sucked so bad. I don't even have any like words to explain how much it sucked. And I was regretting my decision at that point because I'm like, I'm being a crappy wife, I'm being a crappy mom, I'm stuck in this chair. I was just having a pity party for one and nobody wanted to be invited. So it wasn't ideal, you know, that second week. And also in that second week, when I kind of felt like, you know, everything was like healing and everything was going in a good direction as far as like my recovery, I started bleeding from my stomach and on the right side. And I had noticed that there was like a mound and like where my pooch used to be, like, and I'm like, I thought it was just swelling. Well, it got really hard and really painful and it started bleeding from a part of my right side of my incision. So of course I freaked out and I went into the doctor's office and he was like, you know, there was just a pile of fluid that was collecting and it had to come out. So I was freaked out, but fortunately there was no infection. They did put me on antibiotic that was just precautionary. And so the upside part of that was, so I had, you know, I just kept bandages on there and like kept, you know, changing them as I needed to. It wasn't like a fast gushing blood. It was like a slow leak and it was like this like orangey color. So it definitely was it was like, looked just like the fluid that was in the drains. And the positive side to that was it didn't hurt. It actually relieved all the pressure from that swelling that was there, that was creating that mound. And I'll insert this picture right here so you can see what I'm talking about. But yeah, that part sucked. And it bled for like 5 or 6 days, just like a slow leak. So it was annoying, but it was also relieving because it really helped with the pressure and the swelling that was in my lower abdomen. Then, you know, things started to slowly get better. You know, like every day I felt a little bit better. I felt like I could pick up the house, I could, you know, do things. So by week 3, I was feeling a little bit better. I was definitely not as depressed and upset as I was in week 2, where I was just like, why? Also, the swelling was getting a little bit better. I had purchased, right after I got the binder taken out, I went and purchased this garment. It's called Colombian shapewear, and it's basically like this tight bodysuit that like, it's like a corset and it zips up. And I loved it because it really was so tight that it felt like it was really supportive for my back and it really held everything in. I was like, oh, I like the shape that I have, you know? So I really liked that, and I lived in that thing 24/7. And it pretty much was like such a blessing to wear that thing because it felt like supportive and tight and it felt more comfortable. I could start standing up straight because initially I was really hunched over from them tightening the muscles. So yeah, that thing was great. And then things slowly started to get better. About week 4, I was like, light at the end of the tunnel. It was like finally like, oh my God, I feel so much better. I had got the green light for 4th of July to go swimming. I wore my bathing suit for the first time and things were like just feeling like, okay, like we're out of the thick of it. I basically want to tell you that if you are thinking about doing this procedure and you have young children, number 1, wait. If someone would have told me like how hard it was going to be with small kids, I would have waited. I really would have. And number 2, if you decide that you want to do it and you know you do have small kids, absolutely ensure that you have 24/7 help for your kids. Like I could have been on my own fine, like I don't need the help, I can recover, I'm like good to go, whatever. Make sure you have help. 24/7 help for your kids because you are just you can't do it. You know, I feel like I'm like Superwoman sometimes, and I could not do it. I couldn't. So it was really hard. It has changed my perspective on plastic surgery. Prior to this procedure, I had, you know, I was very lighthearted about plastic surgery. You know, when I had my boobs done a couple of years ago, I was out to lunch the next day. Like, it was like, whoop, easy breezy, no problem, whatever. This one had me on my ass, and it was a really tough spot to be in because, you know, I don't like to feel like that, and I don't want any surgery for a long time. Like, I totally need a breast lift after breastfeeding with implants, but like, hell no. I am waiting until these things need to be replaced. I can just wear a push-up bra, no problem. Like, I don't want any cosmetic surgery for a long time. I'll say that. I am very happy with my surgeon. I'm happy with my results. I think he did a wonderful job. I do still have swelling. So I had lipo in my love handles, and they still are pretty puffy and swollen, and actually really tender. Like, it's 2 months out, and like if I touch my hips, it's still tender, and that hurts really crazy. So as far as the swelling goes, I'm so glad I made some really great friends through this process. Girls I've talked to who were either doing it right around the same time as me, so we were kind of going through it together, and that really helped me get through it. Like, that is the power of social media, is that, you know, just friends, total strangers, and people that you can talk to and get through something like that with, who are going through the same thing, where, you know, your best friends and your family don't understand because they're not in the middle of it. So that was a really cool part of it. So I had talked to someone who basically had messaged me. If you watch my Instagram stories through this whole process, then you kind of probably know how like crazy I was. But someone had messaged me and was like, don't be discouraged. You know, I had this done, and it took about 5 months for the swelling to finally like chill out and to basically be snatched. And I'm like, okay. So whenever I'm feeling a little discouraged and I do feel like I'm swollen and I'm not looking exactly how I want to look, I just keep that in mind, because when I wake up in the morning, I'm like, whoop, whoop, tiny, small, skinny, looks great. I'm not skinny, I'm not a skinny human, but you know what I mean? Like, everything looks really good and I'm really happy with it. You can like see little muscle definition and everything like that. By the end of the day, I look like a hard Buddha belly. So I try not to let that discourage me too much. I'm like, you know, it'll eventually go down. So my final thoughts on this entire journey is I am super happy I did it. I'm super happy it's behind me. That's how I feel. And if I left anything out that you are curious about, feel free to leave it in the comments. I will go through and answer everything to the best of my ability. I'm more than happy to share my, you know, my experiences, and it's been intense, but I am happy. I'm glad I did it. That is my journey. I do recommend this treatment, but I recommend it with caution, and you know, really taking the right steps to make sure that you have a really great recovery. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you have not already, and I will see you in my next video. Thank you so much for watching.